Everything that you're looking at, they're all tied in together. Every part, as crazy as this seems, as outrageous as it seems, it all ties in. Every bit of it.
There has been some updates in the Diddy $100 million default judgment that we reported on earlier this week.
Sean Diddy Combs, the once untouchable king of the music industry, has found himself in a situation that no amount of money or fame can easily fix. His current predicament is a far cry from the lavish lifestyle he once flaunted for the world to see. But how did a man who built an empire on glitz, glamour, and undeniable talent end up trading designer suits for prison attire? This is the question that has captivated both fans and critics alike, as Diddy's involvement in a string of shocking allegations has turned his life upside down. From multi-million-dollar mansions to the cold, hard reality of a federal detention center, Diddy's fall from grace has been swift, brutal, and public.
You know, I think in federal court and for these charges, they would say it's routine, but in the public realm, this is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy being and everything we've seen him do over the decades. Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail.
The first thing anyone notices now when they see Diddy in court is how much he's changed. Gone is the confident, swaggering mogul who used to command rooms with just his presence. In his place is a man who looks visibly drained, worn down by the weight of the accusations against him. Insiders close to the case have described Diddy as a shell of his former self, with one source speculating that he's not just battling the charges, he's battling himself. Rumors have been swirling that Diddy is struggling deeply with his mental health, spiraling into a state of depression as the walls close in around him. The stress of being held in custody, coupled with the barrage of shocking new claims emerging almost daily, seems to have taken a toll on his psyche. To make matters worse, Diddy's sudden shift from a life of luxury to the harsh environment of a federal detention center is something no one could have prepared him for. The Metropolitan Detention Center, MDC, in Brooklyn, where he's currently being held, has earned a notorious reputation. Conditions there are far from the opulence Diddy once enjoyed. The facility, often described as hell on earth, is rife with violence, overcrowding, and shortages of basic amenities. Inmates have long complained about the lack of adequate medical care and the grim living conditions. For someone like Diddy, who was accustomed to flying on private jets and dining at exclusive restaurants, the adjustment has been nothing short of jarring.
The special housing unit is a 24-hour lockdown unit, which means that any movement within that unit is controlled and coordinated, and no inmate moves outside of his cell without being in full restraints, to include leg irons, handcuffs, a belly chain, and at least 2, if not 3 staff members escorting them.
And it's not just the physical discomfort that's wearing him down, it's the psychological impact. In an environment like MDC, privacy is a luxury that simply doesn't exist. Diddy, who once lived in sprawling mansions with rooms the size of small apartments, now finds himself crammed into a small, shared space with other inmates. He's forced to follow a strict schedule with little control over even the most basic aspects of his day-to-day life. For a man who has spent decades crafting an image of power and control, this sudden loss of autonomy is likely one of the most difficult things for him to cope with. But the real kicker, Diddy's legal team has been fighting tooth and nail to get him out on bail, offering increasingly elaborate proposals to secure his release. So far, though, every single one of their attempts has been shot down by the courts. And it's not like they haven't tried. His lawyers have proposed everything from a $50 million bond to 24-hour surveillance, promising that Diddy would be under constant watch and unable to flee or interfere with witnesses. Yet, despite these offers, the courts remain unmoved, with prosecutors arguing that Diddy poses both a flight risk and a danger to the community.
We have a shot. I think his attorneys raised some good arguments.
I think they raise good arguments as well. Maybe this will be third time's the charm, because the difference between this bail motion and the prior two is that this one really does get to the heart of what the court was concerned about, which was witness intimidation.
The court's reluctance to grant Diddy bail speaks volumes about the seriousness of the charges against him. This isn't just a case of a celebrity getting into a bit of trouble. These are allegations that could put him behind bars for years, if not decades. And with each passing day, the weight of those charges seems to get heavier. At the heart of it all are accusations so severe that they've not only tarnished Diddy's public image, but also shaken the very foundation of his empire. One of the most damning aspects of the case against Diddy is the sheer number of accusations that have come to light. What started as a single lawsuit has snowballed into a flood of allegations, with more victims stepping forward, each with their own harrowing tale. Initially, it seemed like Diddy's legal team was confident they could handle the situation. After all, they had managed to settle the first lawsuit quickly and quietly, before many of the details even had a chance to hit the press. But that settlement, rather than putting an end to the controversy, only seemed to encourage others to come forward.
Well, one of the things that's going to happen, and I do believe that there has been a grand jury investigation that has been employed in this case. I think there may be a federal investigation going on, and there may be a stateside one, but I'm not totally sure. But one of the things that the prosecution in any case is going to try to do is show that there is a pattern of behavior.
And the stories these new accusers are telling, they paint a picture of a man who has been living a double life for years. While the public saw a successful entrepreneur and philanthropist behind closed doors, Diddy was allegedly involved in a much darker world, one filled with manipulation, coercion, and control. According to court documents, Diddy is accused of orchestrating elaborate events where the lines between socializing and something far more sinister were repeatedly crossed. These events, described by some as wild parties, were reportedly anything but harmless fun. Instead, they were allegedly highly organized and orchestrated gatherings where disturbing behavior was not only allowed, but encouraged. But these allegations aren't just about what happened at a few parties. They're about a pattern of behavior that spans decades. For years, there have been whispers about Diddy's wild lifestyle, but few could have imagined the extent of what's now being revealed. And with each new claim, it becomes increasingly clear that this is no isolated incident. The accusations point to a man who allegedly used his wealth and power to exploit those around him, confident that his influence would protect him from ever being held accountable.
These are all allegations that have become shockingly familiar against Diddy in recent months as he has faced lawsuit after lawsuit from women and men who have accused him of all manner of bad behavior.
One of the most unsettling aspects of the case is the way some of Diddy's accusers describe feeling trapped, both literally and figuratively. They speak of being lured into situations they couldn't escape from, of being manipulated into doing things they never would have agreed to under normal circumstances. And what's even more chilling is the suggestion that Diddy wasn't acting alone. According to some of the allegations, he had a whole network of people around him who helped facilitate and cover up his actions. From personal assistants to security guards, there are claims that many individuals within Diddy's inner circle were aware of what was happening and either turned a blind eye or actively participated. The case against Diddy has also raised questions about the role of power and privilege in protecting certain individuals from facing consequences. For years, Diddy was one of the most successful and influential figures in the music industry. His connections spanned the worlds of entertainment, politics, and business, and he had built a reputation as a man who could get things done. But with all that power came a certain level of impunity. Many of Diddy's alleged victims have stated that they felt powerless to speak out against him, fearing that no one would believe them or that they would be blacklisted from the industry if they did.
Took Sean Diddy Combs into custody. He's seen in this video entering the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan with others when agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him. They place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs.
And it's not just the victims who have been left feeling powerless. Even some of Diddy's former associates have expressed shock and disbelief at the extent of the allegations. Some have come forward to say that while they were aware of Diddy's hard partying lifestyle, they had no idea things had gone so far. Others, however, have hinted that there were always whispers and rumors, but no one dared to confront Diddy about them. After all, who would challenge one of the most powerful men in the industry? As the legal battle drags on, it's clear that Diddy's once golden reputation is in tatters. The man who was once hailed as a pioneer in the music world is now facing the very real possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. And while his legal team continues to fight for his release, the odds are increasingly stacked against him. The more details that come to light, the more difficult it becomes to imagine a scenario where Diddy walks away from this unscathed.
It's pretty interesting because I think, we have seen many photos, videos of Sean Combs, aka Diddy, through the Associated Press, through Instagram. And so to see him kind of in person after being in jail for 3 weeks now was pretty interesting, to say the least. And I say that by being that you would expect him to feel a little defeated,
But what's perhaps most surprising is how quickly things have spiraled out of control. It wasn't that long ago that Diddy was still living the high life, appearing at award shows, launching new business ventures, and rubbing shoulders with A-list celebrities. Now, he's stuck in a federal detention center, waiting to see if he'll even be granted the chance to defend himself in court as a free man. And with each new day, it seems more and more likely that he won't. The legal team representing Diddy is, by all accounts, one of the best money can buy. They've made it clear that they intend to fight the charges with everything they've got, and they've already started poking holes in the prosecution's case. One of their key arguments is that much of the evidence being used against Diddy is circumstantial or based on testimonies from individuals with ulterior motives. They've also pointed out that Diddy's wealth and influence make him an easy target for those looking to cash in on a high-profile lawsuit.
This is in the matter of Derek Lee Cardello Smith, MDOC number 267009 versus Sean Combs, Sean Puff Daddy Combs, also known as Sean P. Diddy, also known as Diddy, Bad Boy Records label owner.
However, the prosecution isn't backing down. They've made it clear that they have a mountain of evidence ready to present in court, including videos, witness testimonies, and other materials that they claim will prove Diddy's guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt. And while Diddy's lawyers may be doing everything in their power to discredit the prosecution's case, it's going to be an uphill battle. The sheer volume of allegations combined with the severity of the charges makes it difficult to see how Diddy's defense team will be able to turn things around. But it's not just the legal battle that's weighing heavily on Diddy, it's the public perception. In a world where reputation is everything, Diddy's image has taken a massive hit. Even if he manages to avoid a conviction, the damage done to his brand could be irreparable. Sponsors have already started distancing themselves, and his once loyal fan base is beginning to question whether they ever really knew the man behind the music. For a mogul who built his career on his impeccable public persona, this might be the most devastating blow of all.
As far as, is he going to turn people in? Is he going to cooperate? If the federal government wants him to cooperate and they're going to cut his time, because right now he's looking at 15 to life. With all the charges he had to, he won't get out till 70 years old. He about 70. That's when they start talking about letting him come to a halfway house.
As Diddy sits in his cell at MDC, he's likely reflecting on how quickly things have unraveled. Just a few short years ago, he was at the top of the world with a thriving career and a seemingly endless stream of opportunities. Now, he's facing the fight of his life with everything on the line, his freedom, his legacy, and his future. And with each passing day, the odds seem to be shifting further out of his favor. The trial, set for May 2025, promises to be one of the most talked about legal battles in recent memory. But for Diddy, it's not just about clearing his name, it's about survival. Because if the accusations against him are proven true, it's not just his career that will be over, it's everything he's ever worked for.
Diddy has been under criminal investigation for months by federal prosecutors here in New York. And if there are criminal charges, many of them may look a lot like what some of these individuals have been describing.
As the countdown to the trial begins, all eyes are on Diddy. Will he be able to mount a successful defense and reclaim his place at the top? Or is this the final chapter in the story of one of the most influential figures in modern music? Only time will tell. This leads us to the next, even more shocking chapter, in the unraveling of Diddy's empire, his long-shadowed legacy of accusations and the dark secrets that have been lurking beneath the surface for years. Diddy's fall from grace didn't happen overnight. In fact, if you dig deep enough, you'll find that warning signs were always there, lurking in the background, whispered about in certain circles, but never fully addressed. For years, Diddy was not only a symbol of success and ambition, but also a man surrounded by controversy. People in the industry had heard the rumors, the stories of wild parties that blurred the lines of acceptable behavior, and of a man who seemed to believe that his fame and wealth granted him immunity from consequences. But now, the layers are being peeled back and what's being revealed is shocking, to say the least. The accusations against Diddy aren't just recent developments. They date back years, possibly even decades, and paint a disturbing picture of someone who allegedly exploited those around him. The scariest part, many of these victims claim they were too afraid to speak out at the time, fearing that Diddy's power and influence could crush their careers. Or worse, and honestly, who could blame them? We're talking about one of the most influential figures in the music industry, someone who could make or break you with a single phone call. The stakes were incredibly high for anyone who dared to go against him. Let's rewind to the early 2000s, a time when Diddy was not only dominating the music charts, but also known for throwing some of the most extravagant parties in Hollywood.
Sean had to take responsibility for what he did as an individual. Sean is the one who pulled that gun out. Sean is the one who shot. So he has to take responsibility for that.
These events were legendary, with a list, celebrities, endless entertainment, and, according to some insiders, a much darker side that never made it to the tabloids. It was at these parties that the seeds of today's allegations were allegedly planted. Several sources, including former employees and party planners, have hinted that what went on behind closed doors at these events was far from glamorous. Instead, they described scenes of manipulation, control, and a hierarchy where Diddy was at the top, dictating who could participate and who would participate and who had the power to say no. Spoiler alert, most people didn't feel like they had a choice.
Diddy is now being sued in addition to what we just talked about by Dawn Richards. You guys will remember her. She was a part of Making the Band.
Dirty Money.
Dirty Money, the Danny Kane era. So basically what she is alleging, she's alleging a lot of different things.
One of the most chilling aspects of the accusations is the claim that Diddy would often target individuals who were vulnerable. People who were trying to break into the industry or who were already on the fringes of fame. These were people who couldn't afford to turn down an invitation to one of his infamous parties, knowing full well that being seen with someone like Diddy could open doors for their careers. But once they arrived, the atmosphere reportedly shifted. What started as a glamorous night out quickly descended into something far more unsettling. Some attendees have spoken out about feeling trapped, as if they were being watched or coerced into doing things they never would have agreed to under normal circumstances. One former event planner who has chosen to remain anonymous recalled a particular party that still haunts them to this day. It was like a scene out of a movie, they said. There were mirrors everywhere, covering the walls and ceiling. It wasn't just for decoration. It was so that Diddy could see everything happening from every angle. According to this source, the entire setup was designed to create an atmosphere of control where Diddy could oversee every detail of the night's activities. And it wasn't just the decor that raised eyebrows. The guest list, which included a mix of celebrities, models, and industry insiders, reportedly also featured individuals who were clearly not there voluntarily. You could tell something was off, the planner said. Some people looked scared, like they wanted to leave but couldn't.
Jay-Z got his ass whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name?
Right.
Solange. You got his ass. The feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped.
This party planner's account aligns with other stories that have surfaced over the years, stories that were once dismissed as wild rumors but are now being taken seriously in light of the ongoing investigations. For a long time, the idea that Diddy's parties were anything more than over-the-top social gatherings was brushed off as tabloid fodder. After all, Hollywood is known for its excesses, and Diddy was hardly the first celebrity to push the envelope when it came to partying. But as more and more people come forward with eerily similar stories, it's becoming harder to ignore the darker side of these events. And it's not just partygoers who are speaking out. Some of Diddy's former employees have come forward with their own disturbing accounts. From bodyguards to assistants, many of them have described a work environment that was, at best, toxic and, at worst, downright dangerous. One former bodyguard who worked for Diddy during the height of his career has gone on record saying that he witnessed things he wishes he could forget. There were times when I felt like I was part of something really wrong, he said. But when you're working for someone like Diddy, you don't ask questions. You just do your job and hope you don't get caught in the crossfire.
New at 5, the legal troubles continue for Sean Diddy Combs tonight after a judge ordered the music mogul to pay $100 million to a Michigan man who says that he was assaulted by Combs in '97.
According to court documents, Derek Cardello Smith says Combs and then assaulted him during an after party at a Holiday Inn in Detroit. But Combs never responded to the lawsuit in court.
Crossfire. That's a word that seems to come up a lot when people talk about Diddy's inner circle. Over the years, there have been numerous reports of physical altercations, threats, and intimidation tactics used to keep people in line. Some of these incidents have been well documented, while others remain whispered about in the shadows. In fact, several of Diddy's former associates have hinted that they were coerced into signing non-disclosure agreements, effectively silencing them from ever speaking out about what they saw or experienced.
If that's part of the indictment, that's somewhat like a blackmail. He was blackmailing people to be in the freak-offs. So that's federal. That could be that's a federal charge. He can't blackmail people to say, yo, listen here, you did it once and you're gonna do it again. That ain't gonna make it with the government or nobody.
One of the most infamous incidents that continues to haunt Diddy's career is the alleged involvement of his team in violent confrontations. Some might remember the high-profile club incident in 1999, where shots were fired and Diddy, along with his then-girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, were thrust into the center of a media storm. Though Diddy was ultimately acquitted of any wrongdoing, the case left a stain on his reputation that never truly washed away. And now, with these new allegations surfacing, that old controversy is being revisited with fresh eyes. Were these just isolated incidents, or part of a larger pattern of behavior that's only now being fully exposed? Then there's the case of Cassie Ventura, Diddy's former girlfriend, who filed a lawsuit against him in November 2023, accusing him of years of mistreatment. Although the lawsuit was settled within 24 hours, the details that emerged in the brief window before the settlement were enough to send shockwaves through the industry. Cassie alleged that throughout their 11-year relationship, she endured not only emotional manipulation, but also physical harm. The speed at which the case was settled raised eyebrows, with many speculating that Diddy was eager to avoid a prolonged legal battle that could have revealed even more damaging information.
What that means is the money that they're saying Diddy has to start paying this guy on October 1st, right. Diddy's team is like, hold on, we need an emergency conversation about why this should not have been granted. Mm-hmm. And they awarded him a TRO, which basically meant that Diddy's team was not allowed to sell any property in that state or anything related to what could be used to pay the plaintiff.
The Cassie case was like a floodgate opening. Almost immediately after the settlement, other individuals stepped forward, each with their own story to tell. Some of these accusers are former business partners, others are people who attended Diddy's parties, and a few are individuals who claim to have worked for him behind the scenes. What's striking about these accounts is how similar they all are. Many of these alleged victims described feeling powerless in the face of Diddy's influence, afraid that speaking out would lead to severe personal and professional consequences. And for a long time, it seems that fear kept them silent. But with the growing momentum of the Me Too movement and the increasing willingness of victims to come forward, the tide has shifted. Suddenly, the idea that someone as powerful as Diddy could be held accountable doesn't seem so far-fetched. And that's exactly what's happening now. The sheer number of people coming forward has made it impossible for Diddy to continue brushing these claims aside. His legal team has been working overtime to discredit the accusers, but the damage to his reputation has already been done. Even if he manages to avoid a conviction, there's no denying that Diddy's public image has been permanently tarnished.
Dawn had the choice to file the case as a Jane Doe, and she chose not to do that. After giving it a fair amount of thought, she wants accountability, she wants justice.
One of the more recent allegations involves a woman who claims she was assaulted by Diddy at a party in the early 2000s. According to her, the night started off as a typical Hollywood event, glamorous, filled with celebrities, and the kind of place where being seen was almost as important as what you wore. But as the night wore on, things took a darker turn. She recalls being separated from her friends and led to a private area of the house where the atmosphere was completely different from the main party. It was quieter, more intimate, and, as she described it, incredibly uncomfortable. She says that what happened next left her feeling violated and powerless, and for years she kept quiet, out of fear that no one would believe her. This woman's story, much like many others, points to a pattern of behavior that seems to have gone unchecked for far too long. And it begs the question, how was Diddy able to get away with this for so many years? The answer, according to some insiders, lies in the culture of silence that permeates the entertainment industry. For years, powerful figures like Diddy were able to operate with impunity because they had the resources to control the narrative. Whether through non-disclosure agreements, hush money, or simply the fear of professional retaliation, many alleged victims felt they had no choice but to stay silent.
And if he's allowed to go through with any of the sales, I won't be able to recoup any of my monies or anything from him as a result of any possible judgment in this action, if he's allowed to proceed with it. And an injunction or a restraining order would help ensure that he's not manipulating and selling the property to avoid.
But now, that silence is being broken, and as more people come forward, the scale of the allegations is becoming impossible to ignore. What started as a few isolated claims has snowballed into something much bigger, something that threatens to unravel not just Diddy's career, but the entire empire he's built over the past 3 decades. And it's not just his accusers who are speaking out. Some former friends and associates have also started distancing themselves from Diddy, unwilling to be associated with the growing scandal. One former collaborator who worked closely with Diddy during the early 2000s recently spoke out about their time together. There were always rumors, they said, but at the time you didn't question Diddy. He was too powerful, too connected. It was too powerful, too connected. If you crossed him, you were finished in this town. This sentiment has been echoed by others in the industry who have described a culture of fear surrounding Diddy. For years, it seems that people were afraid to even acknowledge the rumors, let alone confront him directly.
I think that they don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand.
Now, with so many allegations coming to light, the question on everyone's mind is, will Diddy finally face justice, or will he, like so many other powerful figures, find a way to escape accountability? His legal team is certainly doing everything in their power to ensure the latter. They've been working around the clock to poke holes in the accusers' stories, suggesting that many of these individuals are simply looking for a payday. But with the sheer number of accusations and the consistency of the stories being told, it's becoming harder and harder to dismiss these claims as mere opportunism. As Diddy prepares for what is sure to be the fight of his life, both in the courts and in the court of public opinion, one thing is clear: this is far from over. The trial, set to take place in May 2025, is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched legal battles in recent memory. And with more accusers coming forward by the day, the case against Diddy is only getting stronger.
I'm not going to talk about anything that I haven't said in court or in the papers. These are all great questions, but I'm just not going to get into it. So
can you speak about your concerns about the leak and the video? You have spoken about that
I did it in the court papers, and I'm just going to stick to the court papers. As you guys all know, let me just finish. As you all know, I made a request today for what we were calling a gag order, and I'm not going to walk out of court and do anything other than.
What's perhaps most striking in all of this is how much Diddy's public image has changed. Just a few short years ago, he was seen as a trailblazer, a man who had not only built a successful music career, but had also expanded into fashion, television, and even philanthropy. He was a symbol of what could be achieved with hard work and ambition. But now that image is crumbling, replaced by something far darker. The man who once seemed invincible is now facing the very real possibility of losing everything. And as we inch closer to the trial date, the question on everyone's mind is, will Diddy be able to beat the charges and reclaim his place at the top? Or is this the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful men in entertainment? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And as always, stay tuned for more updates on this ongoing story.